The street was silent that morning, except for the faint cries of a baby wrapped in a faded pink blanket. Her mother, Amina, clutched her tightly to her chest, her eyes swollen from tears. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but it was her child's empty cries that pierced her heart like knives. This was not how Amina had imagined motherhood. She had dreamt of a warm home, food on the table, and laughter echoing in the air. Instead, all she had was an empty hut with leaking walls and nothing but despair to feed her little girl. For days she had wandered the streets searching for work, begging for food, but doors slammed shut and people turned away. It was on this broken day that fate brought her face to face with Madame Grace, a wealthy woman dressed in bright red lace and draped in golden jewelry. Grace was admired by many in the community, not just for her wealth but for her poise. Yet despite all her riches, her life carried a silent ache. She was barren. She had longed for a child, but years of trying had left her empty-handed. When Grace saw Amina crying with her hungry baby in her arms, she stopped. Their eyes met, one full of hopelessness, the other heavy with longing. And in that charged silence, an unthinkable thought was born. But before we dive deeper into this heart-wrenching journey, I want to remind you, this story is shared to touch your soul, to remind you of life's struggles and sacrifices. If you're moved by stories that reveal the hidden truths of human hearts, please take a moment right now to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful tales like this one. Now, let us continue. The offer. Grace's voice was calm yet piercing. I see your pain, young mother. You are struggling, and I am longing. Perhaps we can help each other. Amina's lips trembled. Help each other? Yes, Grace continued. I can give you enough money to rebuild your life. Food, shelter, clothes. You'll never suffer again. All I ask is your child. Let me raise her as my own. Amina's breath caught in her throat. She stared at her baby, then at the neat bundles of dollar bills Grace pulled from her purse. Her heart pounded. Hunger screamed for her to say yes. Love screamed for her to run away. The choice was a dagger with two edges. If she refused, her child might starve. If she agreed, she would lose the only light in her world. Tears streaming, Amina whispered, "She's all I have." "And she'll be all I have too," Grace said, gently but firmly. "Think of her future. Think of yours." The money gleamed like salvation in Amina's weary eyes. Trembling, with a cry that tore her soul apart, she reached out and took it. And just like that, her little girl was carried away by another woman. The aftermath of regret. For days, Amina tried to convince herself she had done the right thing. She now had enough money for food, for clothes, for a small roof over her head. Neighbors who once pitied her now envied her sudden fortune. But no amount of food could fill the emptiness inside her chest. Every night she woke up hearing phantom cries of her daughter. Every corner of her tiny home echoed with absence. She saw Grace in town, her baby dressed in the finest clothes, riding in cars Amina could only dream of. The child looked well, yet when their eyes met, mother and daughter, the little one stretched out her tiny arms toward Amina. That sight was unbearable. Amina collapsed into tears. The regret that followed was heavier than any poverty she had ever known. Grace's struggle. At first, Grace was overjoyed. She finally had the child she had prayed for. She dressed her in silk, gave her the best milk, and surrounded her with toys. But something was missing. The baby cried often, reaching out, refusing to sleep unless she smelled the faint, familiar scent of her real mother. Grace tried everything, but the little one's restless cries cut into her heart. "You have everything," Grace whispered to the baby. "Why are you not happy?" The answer was simple. Love cannot be bought with money. One evening, as Grace carried the crying child down the same street where she had first met Amina, fate once again played its part. Amina appeared, her eyes red from sleepless nights. She fell to her knees before Grace. "Please," Amina begged. "I cannot live without her. Take all the money back, every coin. But please give me my baby." Grace stood frozen. The woman before her had nothing to offer but love. And yet that was the one thing the child truly needed. Grace's own heart cracked. She realized she had been trying to fill her emptiness with someone else's treasure. She looked at the little girl, then at Amina, and finally whispered, "She is yours." Amina clutched her daughter, sobbing uncontrollably as the baby quieted instantly in her arms. That night, for the first time in weeks, Amina's heart beat with hope. She had lost everything once, but now she understood. Love was worth more than gold. Grace, on the other hand, walked away with tears streaming down her cheeks. But this time, they were not just tears of loss, they were tears of release. She realized her path to happiness was not by taking someone else's child, but perhaps by opening her wealth to care for children who had no one. And so Grace later used her riches to open a small orphanage, filling her empty halls with laughter, not bought but freely given. Challenges they faced. 1. Amina's poverty. Hunger and despair pushed her to the brink of selling her child. The challenge of survival clashed against her love as a mother. 2. Grace's barrenness. Despite her wealth, her inability to have a child left her heart aching and vulnerable, leading her to make a desperate choice. 3. The child's cry. Both women faced the truth that love cannot be replaced by wealth or possessions. The child's cries became the voice of truth. 4. Regret and redemption. Amina's unbearable regret and Grace's realization of her mistake created the turning point. They both had to face their inner battles before finding peace. The story of Amina and Grace is more than just about poverty or wealth. It is about the priceless bond of love between a mother and her child. Money may buy comfort, but it can never replace the warmth of a mother's embrace. We are reminded that true kindness is not in taking what belongs to others, but in lifting others so that no mother, no child, and no heart suffers alone. And now, dear viewers, if this story touched your heart, I want to hear from you. Comment below and share your thoughts. Would you have made the same choice Amina did? Or do you believe love should never be sacrificed, no matter the cost? Don't forget, this is Whispers of Kindness, where every story carries a lesson for the soul. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe so that together we can keep spreading stories of compassion, struggle, and hope.